Hello, everyone. This is Ian Iliana here. I am the host of I Hate LA, Love Me Anyway. Hi, Jaden. Welcome to the chat today. Had another rough day. I had to do a nice long walk with Iliana, who is over there quite upset. She sees me nibbling on some food, so she wants some too. It's only understandable. My food is delicious. Oh, but she can wait up for a small bit while I discuss environmental issues. Is it 9 o'clock where you are? Huh, it's amazing. You don't really think about how big the Earth is until people start telling you that it's daylight and you're looking outside and saying, no, it isn't. Hmm. I know it's an arbitrary time to start a live, but why not have consistency? Oh, I guess I eat trail mix. I'm trying to condition my body and my palate to eat more food that would be conducive to camping outside because, as I said, I went for that long walk with my animal, but I have PTSD from military sexual trauma. Women just kept trying to get near me. And it's not like they were trying. It's just the walkway was there, the walkway is narrow. What are you going to really do? I mean, you can't just dart into traffic every single time. I do, which is stupid. What I should do is just stop walking on the stupid main roads. But either way, it proved to me once again I can't accept new apartments because if I accept a new apartment, it's going to be yet another situation where I'm in a community based and they're going to try and shove communities on me. And it's I support communities, I really do. I can't support people being near me when I have PTSD and I'm not uh, getting the correct help that I am. Hello, Keeper. Hello, people in the chat. My name is Ian Iliana. I'm an environmentalist and I talk about issues like smog and clean air. It is nice to meet you, Keeper. Nice to meet you, Aviation. Very nice to meet you. Welcome to the chat. And thank you for liking my new song, Jaden. I really do appreciate it. Ella, nice to meet you, Scorpion Princess. Love to hear you or in this chat today. I have some links in the description of some projects that I am involved in, namely change.org/clear LA smog. I really think that if we can reduce pollution, then we can have a better society. And that's a very excellent question, Aviation. When it comes to building a personal computer, you have to think about what you want out of it. Do you want portability or do you want power? Or do you want performance? Because those are very, very different things. I am a person who loves building PC rigs. I have a Lenovo Legion Go, which is a handheld, but it does have PC capabilities, and I use it mostly in PC mode. But when I use it in PC mode, I use it with two monitors. I absolutely have thoughts on how to stop pollution. I think we need to change the roads. It has been proven that there are countries in Africa where they change the roads and they use materials which are more durable so that the cars that go over them aren't injuring the exhaust pipes. If you're going for performance, then you really need to start thinking about memory and graphics card. Hard drive space, a lot of people say, well, no, I'll dump all my money into hard drive space. It's like, no, you don't. If you really want to build your PC properly, you need to cap it at maybe 512 or 1 terabyte. Because if you get more than that, you're just going to end up filling it more with things that you're not using. And I know that that's slightly hypocritical because I'm trying to get my veteran benefits, and it's like, well, what do you need more? That is really interesting that that person is in my chat. Hello, person in my chat. I support people who want to expand upon. I find it really odd that my dog wants to watch television right now, but it can't use its paws to press the button. So she's just gnawing on the remote. So good for her. And to answer the question of more oil will stop pollution, it actually would. It depends on how we use it. If we use it to lubricate the inner workings of a car, then yeah, that's what it's supposed to be for. If we use it to make asphalt and burn it as a fuel, then no, that's not correct. However, I'm not against people using diesel power. It's to each their own. I, 1 second. Are you alright, love? Well, there's another one right there if you really want it. Well, that's magic over there, so she's adorable. I think solar and wind and I'm trying to just 1 second. 1 second. I just picked the wrong time to do this live. She wants something and I'm in the middle of doing this. But this is what happens when you have partners. You have to be able to be flexible. Okay, as to this, if I can just complete this point on solar and wind energy. Solar and wind energy are wonderful ideas, but they're just not being utilized properly. What I mean by that is, if you're going to say that you use solar energy, you have to use solar energy throughout everything. And same thing with wind energy. You have to have it throughout everything and in such a large scale that it covers all of the usage. You can't have a single building still on the old grid. And what we see with most of these cities, they have buildings that are solar based, but then they also hi Clint, and thank you Aviation for liking my new song. But they have old buildings that aren't using solar energy, and they're still on the grid, and the grid itself needs to be upgraded because when you use things like solar energy and wind energy, you're generating so much energy that it needs to be utilized. If it's not utilized, it's not being stored. If it's not being stored, it's just being wasted. So most of the wind turbine power that they generate is just half of it just not being used. But if we change.org/Scotland New Grid, it's one of the initiatives that I have to send myself to Scotland to discuss with the Scottish Parliament how we can change the grid in order to accommodate the amount of usage that we will see from now on. No, I can't do that one. And yeah, you definitely have to utilize the creativity because it seems to me that people who are environmentalists, they try really, really hard to convince people to change and ask of the government things that are just never going to happen. I mean, you're not going to have a law that says you can't use petroleum-based products in cars anymore. It's unrealistic. What is realistic is to say, okay, well, everybody has to go on a road. What if that road reduced the pollution for you? That is something that people can agree upon. That is something that they can do by change.org/Scotland New Grid. I can tell the Scottish Parliament things that they can do to improve the electric infrastructure to utilize more of the renewable energy that they generate. They generate renewable energy in Scotland, they're just not using all of it. So you need to update things like hospitals, schools. You know how many lights are on in a school that don't need to be on? You know how many, computers they have, running in labs that aren't doing anything because there's nobody in the room. They're just not set up for efficiency. That's why I say I need my veteran benefits, because if I had my veteran benefits, I could compete with people like Elon Musk. Ah, sorry about that. I want to compete with Elon Musk because he doesn't design electric cars like I would. Because Clint brings up a beautiful point. It takes too long to charge an electric car because you shouldn't be charging your electric car. Your electric car should just be running 24/7 as needed. And if it isn't doing that, then what is the point? Aviation, I'm so glad you ask all the smart questions. I'm a realist. I'm a person. Clint, you're bang on. That's what I'm talking about. They should all be constant motion, no moving parts whatsoever. We have to get away from this idea of wheels and engines. That is beneath us. That is beneath us. Change.org/genius to Mars. I'm an engineer, so I will be the first one to tell you that what we think about manufacturing cars is just wrong. We're way behind where we should be. So, no, I don't mind that there are still cars that use petroleum. I don't mind. I just say if you're going to use them, then you have to think about the environmental impact, because every single car pollutes. And even when you think that these electric cars aren't polluting, they are. And here's why they're polluting. When they get into traffic, they are holding up the spot for these petroleum based cars. So when you're sitting in traffic and you've got your Tesla, your electric car, and you think, oh, okay, well, I'm not polluting. It's no, you're causing other people behind you when you're sitting in traffic to sit there for longer. Therefore, they're polluting for longer. If there were less cars, I'm for the reduction of cars. I'm for the reduction of wasteful trips. I'm at this point where I want to start competing with some of these major companies. And I know that I just paused there for like 2 seconds. It's it's just a lot to think about, because the way this world the way I can't even think straight. The way this world works is that people get into their cars and they just go someplace randomly and say, "Oh, I want this for fast food," or "I will just drive in a circle until I find the fast food that I want," or "I will go all the way to the movies." Well, most of these movies that are coming out now, they say, "Well, you can watch it at home." Now, if your screen is 200 inches, 300 inches, whatever, 120 hertz, 240 hertz, 340 hertz, 360 hertz, whatever. Like, you have a reason to say it's comparable to a movie theater. But movie theaters, and I say this as a person who just bought a movie ticket to see Captain America Brave New World. I bought that ticket, but I'm also saying I'm a single person who's going to be using public transportation to go see this film. Can you imagine, loading up your entire family in a car and then sitting in traffic just to go all the way to a movie theater? Then you have to buy food again for every single one of them. They have to have their popcorn, they have to have their drink, they have to have their Raisinets, they have to have their M&Ms, whatever. But everyone is doing this. I'm watching clips on YouTube of this movie, The Blob, and I know that it's a silly, silly horror film, and I know that I should take it as such, but I'm a deep thinker. So when I thought of the blob attacking the movie theater, I thought of it as a metaphor for the sloth that takes over people when they go to the movies. And I say myself included, that there was always something magical about seeing an amazing film while stuffing my face with the most disgusting food that could ever come across my lips. Do I enjoy the films? Do I have to retrain myself to watch television and watch movies without using food to bribe myself to endure such cinema? Because I think that's what's really going on here. I mean, you think of it as a concession stand, but really it's how can we give you sensory overload so you think that this is an amazing experience, so you want to do this again? Okay, so let me go through some of the chat here. I agree with you, Clint. I think people should use horses. I mean, if you domesticate horses and you hold them in a stable, that's not what they want to do. What horse actually wants to be in a stable? And I say that as a human, a mutant actually, but I say that as some sort of Homo sapien creature because that's how I think about apartments right now. I mean, yeah, I have PTSD from my military sexual trauma, but I'm also beginning to realize that I do not like being indoors. And I say that as someone who hates hanging with other people and sharing my experiences with other people. But I hate that. I hate the idea that I can't go outside, go running in a way that makes sense. I love running. I have injuries, but I love running. I run very strangely because I have these injuries, because my leg is at a very bad angle. But I still love doing that. I love walking. I love walking uphill. I love hiking. I can't do that stuck in an apartment. And I've been going over it over and over and over again because the VA is saying fill out paperwork and then we'll let you move wherever you want to move in the entire United States, territories included. But I'm also saying, what about my freedom? What about my freedom to be who I am inside, a Native American slash First Nation person? Where I like to be outside. I like to be in nature. I like to talk to trees. I like to talk to animals. I like to have several animals around me at the same exact time. I can't do that in some apartment building where someone says, well, no, you can only have one dog, or you can't have another cat, or you can't do anything. Or why don't you come to this community meeting so we can discuss things like people using cigarettes? Nonsense, absolute nonsense. And I say the same exact thing for horses. If you have domesticated horses, You should be able to say, okay, well, I take my horse from here to town. I don't need a car. A car is a convenience, but I don't believe in going backwards either. So I would love for people to just return to everybody uses horses and there are no cars. That's just not practical. All right. Do you think we'll have all electric cars or no? No. For one, it's a poverty thing. As long as these non-electric cars are going to be cheaper than the electric cars, and I'm not saying the newer versions. If you go to a car dealership, they always have used cars, and the used cars are not electric cars, and the used cars are cheap. And what's going to happen is that rich people and enlightened people are going to save up the money and get the electric cars, but everybody else is going to purchase a used petroleum based car. And that's sad. And also, the future is not a car. I don't know if anyone is awake in this world, but I'm gonna let my chat in on something. COVID was bioterrorism. It's not a freak virus that happened out of nowhere. It was carefully cultivated. It was spread throughout all of our countries, and our country had leadership that let that happen. So if you want to talk about the future is not I'm going to take a road trip from here to Kalamazoo to Baton Rouge and back. It's not going to be that. It's going to be your city is locked down. You're under quarantine. That is your future. Because once they prove that that can work, once they prove that they could manipulate things, so now you can't go to government offices and complain because they say, because of COVID, we have closed off any close communication with government officials now. So anytime you have to go to the DMV, you got to go to this or that, there's less and less personnel. If you have to talk about anything serious, there's nobody waiting for you. There's not even anyone on the phone anymore because they're just reducing any way for you to speak your mind and have your freedom. Clint, you have some brilliant points here, and that's what I want. I'm a farmer. I like farming. I don't like being in a city. I moved to Los Angeles because I said maybe I would fit more in with the hippie crowd, people who smoke a lot of weed and play bongos. I didn't like that. I didn't like that because you can only play bongos for so long before you wake up and say, hey, isn't that shit on fire over there? And shouldn't I do something about it? Because that's how I feel living in Los Angeles. These people love their glitz, their glamour, their fashion, and nobody is talking about how LA set itself on fire. They threw a concert and people didn't know what the fuck was going on. They just said, that is some really good music. And they don't care that people died. They didn't care that animals died. They didn't care about anything. That disconnect is there. So I would love to have my veteran benefits so I could buy myself my own farm and put up fences, buy some functional working dogs so I can mind sheep and things like that, and tell people, get the fuck off my property. You see, you can do that when you own property. When you live in an apartment, people trespass, it's not your place. I've had to go to the police and say, hey, women are fucking sneaking in my fucking building. Can you do something about that? And they say, well, you don't fucking own it. So if someone trespasses, you can't complain about it. And I say, lovely. So Clint, I would love to use my veteran benefits and buy myself a farm. Even though I'm an engineer, the actual antithesis of farming, but oh well. And hey, CC, nice to see you in the chat here. As I said, I'm answering some questions. I'm going back and forth on environmental issues, and it's good to have you in the chat today. Going with what Clint has said, as you can tell, I've just been singing a lot lately, so I need to take a break. I have new music out if anyone's interested in. All right. I'm going to talk about Clint's point and then go on to aviation's point. So with Clint, he was saying, honestly, think we should go towards a mag rail system, that is a public transport of some kind. I would normally agree with you. I love the idea of it. It's not practical. It isn't, and it's not the direction where we're going. As I said, with the recent bioterrorist event of COVID, the recent bioterrorist event, and I call it that. Do not call it a pandemic. Call it a bioterrorist event, and then you're smarter. Because the people who call it a pandemic think of it something like smallpox, which, by the way, was weaponized against the Native American First Nation people. So it's not the first time that that's happened. But with that knowledge that this happens and this happened recently with COVID and monkeypox, the trend is going to be people stay indoors, mostly because they're going to be quarantined. When the next big bioterrorist slash pandemic happens, you're going to be told by the government, stay indoors. So I would love to have a MagRail system, but the CDC is filled with idiots. I've told them several times how they could deal with environmental issues and how to handle things like a pandemic because I am an epidemiologist. I'm an expert in this shit, but they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen. They don't want to see reason. They look at me, PTSD, veteran, and they think they know better, and they don't. If they knew better, then they wouldn't have allowed the pandemic to get so bad that the president caught COVID. Think about that. It was so bad that the president caught COVID. It was so bad Idris Elba caught COVID. Like, I'm not saying these people are 100% untouchable, but you would think that they would be within enough circles that someone could whisper in the ear, yeah, you know what, just don't go to the market, don't shake that person's hand. But nobody thinks that way. So, Magrill, no, no. The new thing is going to be stay indoors because you're going to be told that by the government and because it's just going to be more convenient. So you're going to have a nice little robot with a box to deliver to you, and you'll get your food that way, you'll get your liquor that way, you'll get your weed that way, and you can chart it on your iPhone or your Android the exact path it's taking. If it takes any delays for more than a millisecond, you can call the company up and say, where the fuck is my problem? Where the fuck is this problem where my stuff isn't coming to me in time? I mean, you'll be able to do things that way. And that makes a lot more sense than having people, oh, and come back if you need to, CC. Of course, of course. This whole idea of public transportation, I would love everyone to do that. It's just, it's not for everyone. And hi, Cheerio. Thank you for coming into the chat today. As I said, I am discussing environmental issues. I'm going through various questions because I like to engage with my fans and my Patreon in here so I can continue to have these environmental conversations. No, instead of having a public transportation system, we need to have a private transportation system. Because I need people to realize that they can walk. and that is a gift. I am becoming older, and I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel it that there will come a day where walking will be difficult. I have to cherish that. I have to cherish that, and then I have to say other people need to be able to appreciate your body while you have it. I mean, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, I'm so fat. I look in the mirror. I don't like what I see." You don't like what you see because you don't actually use the mirror. You see, people who use the mirror glance at it and then they keep on walking. If you stare into the mirror and don't like what you see, it's because you don't stare into a mirror. You stare into a television screen, you stare into a computer screen, you stare into a phone screen. When you stare into those things, you are removing fitness from your life, you're removing your ability to go to sleep. I mean, how many restless nights do I have because of nightmares and because of instead of finding a better way to go back to sleep because I have a nightmare and my dog has to wake me up, I create music in order to cancel out the negative energy of the nightmare of being sexually abused again by the military, the United States Air Force, Master Sergeant Miranda, and the security forces. Okay, thank you for putting that back in. I was supposed to get to that point. I haven't really followed up on. I see music as art therapy for me. Most people see it as, I'm going to make this single, I'm going to be super popular. And it's like, that's not the reason to make music. You should make music because you enjoy creativity, you enjoy solving a puzzle that means something to you. When I create a song, I take all of these elements that float around, words and sound, and I put it together in such an organized way that people can understand it. That's amazing. I don't see it as a platform towards anything else. Now, as to aviation's question, I don't know what's going on in the world of aviation. I do know that we have to do something else. We have been using planes and rockets for too long. For too long. If you can't open a door and be in Tokyo, open a door and be in London, then we're doing something wrong. If you can't go to another country cheaply and at any moment, there is something wrong. Change.org/genius to Mars. I am trying to build something called the commute. Its ability to travel long, long distances. I would love to practice that by going short distances. So please sign my petition for that. By keeping the ability to travel to a new country under pay gates, sorry, behind pay gates, we're removing our ability to find true happiness. I make my music for art therapy. So when I have nightmares, when I have PTSD flashbacks, instead of harming myself or drinking heavily, I choose to make art. So that's why I make music. And in the process, have a way to talk to people about larger issues. It's like, please come for the music, but while you're here, let me talk to you about what's going on in society and in your community. I know that it is February, and at some point, I have to talk about love. How love is out there, and sometimes it's just not in the area that you're in. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm pretty sure there are people here that are looking for love. I'm just not looking to love them. I am looking at other countries. I'm looking at Canada. I'm looking at Europe. There are people who are looking to be loved, and because I live in this country, I'm not able to love them, or they're not able to love me. My advice to people: if you are still looking for a partner, start widening your search. Because when you have to correspond with someone over long distance, you get to know them a little bit more. Hopefully, you can safely ascertain you're talking to a real person. Safety first. But when you do that, you open yourself up to having a deeper conversation. And also, if you ultimately try to move to a new country or a new city for a love, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you can make enough of a connection that it can last. And it's built on something deeper than just physicality, which fades. You have a right to be lonely if you want to be lonely. Well, you also have the right to find happiness. Okay, that's not that weird of a question. When it comes to that, I always say to people, you have to have charisma. If it's a random person, you have to have high charisma. So you have to be able to just talk to people in general. I would say confidence and sincerity. So if you need to talk to other people, I wouldn't even ask a person for their number if you couldn't ask someone, hey, could you help me carry my groceries to the car, or could you open the door for me? If you can ask people to do things like that, those are small, reasonable things that you could do to work up the nerve and courage to ask someone out for a date. I'm not sure the motivation that many musicians have for making music. I'm sure when they start out, they want to be more altruistic and reach out to people, but you join a label. I'm an independent artist, so I run my own music label. I manage one artist right now, myself. I can do whatever I want with my music career. I can do a concert or not do a concert. I can speak my mind on environmental issues if I want. That's the freedom I have as an independent artist. When you are on a major label, you have people who pay for your music videos, who pay for your styling, pay for your social media team, that take photos of you at all times and chooses the best ones. So when people click on your name, all they see is the beauty and none of the pain. That is what it means to be on a label. What it also means when it's a major label is that they literally own you. So when you want to take a break, or you want to talk about an important issue, or you want to do a smaller tour so that you have the time to rest, recover, and be more intimate with your fans. Logan! Hello, hello. You don't have that ability because you sign a contract, and that contract says you will perform. You will perform when we tell you to perform, and you will perform only what we tell you to perform, how we tell you to perform. And it's great because, if you are young and you don't have media training, or you need media training, they'll prepare you for a life of learning to censor yourself. I am an independent artist. I don't have to censor myself at all. If people don't like my views on music or environmental issues or human rights, they can go fuck themselves. I don't give a shit. I will keep speaking about important issues. I will keep exercising the freedom of speech, which I have fought for as a disabled American veteran. I have that right of freedom of speech. I have that right of freedom of press to make a podcast and to make journals of my struggles here in America under oppression. I don't have to censor myself at all. I don't care if that means that I don't have as many fans. I think the fans that I do have will appreciate someone who is honest at all times, someone who cares about them and wants to make sure that there is still a world where they can live in outside of my music. I mean, please like my music, but even so, I don't want you to go outside and see your whole county on fire like my county's on fire with Los Angeles. Hmm. The tips I would definitely give you is be a good listener. That's a skill that you have to practice. And most people love nice, open ended questions that allow them to be more exposed, more comfortable. Something more than a yes or a no question. If you ask a yes or a no question, you're just going to get yes or no. But if you're going to ask, what, or where, just, or how, why, when you ask someone why as a follow up, you will find that they have to dig a little bit deeper to understand their own motivations and things. And by doing that, they have an insight, and they have an insight that they share with you. So there's a rapport there. So if you're really interested in someone in particular, I say work on yourself. Look at look at what you offer. I mean, are you offering companionship? Are you offering, a really good listener? Are you offering a great body? Are you offering a nice face? I'm not saying that you have to have all of those things, because I will let you in on the biggest secret in the world. Fat guys bang supermodels. Supermodels don't want to date another supermodel. They don't. They want a nice, big, chunky guy who allows them to be themselves. Just be a regular person, and not be obsessed with them for their beauty. Obviously, appreciate the beauty, but they just want to be themselves. And I think that's the case for most people. You want someone to see who you are, and not turn away from parts of it that are not as appealing. So I recommend find what you're good at. I mean, telling a joke, being funny is a great way to talk to someone. People like to be happy, well, at least most people. I'm only happy when it rains, and it doesn't rain in California. Not often enough for me. I want people to feel confident in life, so if I can impart any wisdom, I always will. And thank you for coming in the chat and reminding me that I can always give more. Those are extremely good combinations of attributes that people like. I highly recommend that you work with yourself to refine intuition. There is a rhythm that people have within themselves that they try and match the tempo to. If someone's upbeat, they want an upbeat person. If someone is a little bit down, they want someone down but not all the way down. So I recommend that if you're interested in a specific person, you learn to feel their vibe. What are they about? What are they passionate about? I mean, if you really like them, I mean, you want to be their friend as well as someone you could be interested in. But you want to always have that tension there, because if there's tension, there could be something that could develop into a romance. If there's a lack of any tension, if you're just a good listener, then it'll never go anywhere. And always be honest. Like, there's nothing wrong with telling someone how you feel, even if it's super early. Like, you want to declare how you feel often and tactfully, because you don't want to expose yourself to heartbreak, but you don't want to be such a wuss that you let months go by and you haven't even held this person's hand or asked them to dinner or something. It can take that long to reach someone, and I mean, you have to be prepared to spend some time, invest in another person. I've spent 3 years in Los Angeles. I've invested enough. It's time for me to leave. I hate LA. Love me anyway. Maybe that's the way you need to be. I mean, after all, if you're not exactly in the practice of talking to someone and trying to pick up numbers and things like that, you may actually want to just try and find people you can be friends with, because like it or not, friends can actually help you a lot in the dating business if you use them thoughtfully, and they will use you as well, because there's nothing like sending your friend over to say, hey, do you like this person? And they will be very honest, more honest than they can if they just talk to you. And as for tips for asking them out, I say you lock down a time. It's not about what they're interested in or anything like that. It's, are you available, let's say for Valentine's Day, are you available for Valentine's Day? Because I'm doing this, I would like you to do that. with me. And if they say, well, is this a date? And then you say, yeah, it is. I'm interested in you. You're honest like that, but you playful with it. I hate to say, you act a little bit. You know, people look at all these television shows and movies and say, wow, those people are so cool and suave and refined. Well, you can be that too. You just have to practice. So I recommend you just be confident, look down a time, and then ask them out and say, I'm doing this. I would like you to do that with me. Whatever it is, golf or bowling. I'm going bowling on Wednesday. I would like you to go bowling with me. Is this a date? Yes, it is a date. Don't shy away. Okay, that's the advice I will tell you. Never shy away from calling it a date when it is a date. Because if you say it's a date, then both of you are agreeing it's a date. If you don't say it's a date and you still think it's a date when that person doesn't think of it as a date, then there's a miscommunication there. So always be clear with your communication and tell someone how you feel about them. I write love poetry to fictional characters, so I'm probably not the Cyrano that you're looking for, but hopefully I gave you some decent advice. Mm. In this world, we expend a lot of money, a lot of energy on doing things by ourselves. The biggest weapon that we have against pollution and climate change, it's not solar energy, it's love. When you find someone who connects with you and you respect, you will find that you save a lot of money, you stop chasing things that aren't as important anymore, and you build a life together. And hopefully, maybe at some point, you've raised a family. And if you do it correctly, you can raise them to respect nature. So, yes, I think love does conquer all. And of course, you're very welcome for the advice. Nobody wants to be lonely. And there's no reason for it if that's not what you want. If you don't want to be lonely, there are so many people across the entire globe, beautiful, attractive, available people who are interested in being loved, appreciated, and respected, and would love to do the same for you. I go on at 1800, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every day on YouTube. You can find the I Hate LA Love Me Anyway podcast at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every day. I talk about environmental issues and human rights issues. And I do think that the lack of love that we have globally is a human rights issue. You should have the right to be loved, to experience it. We talk a lot in America about the pursuit of happiness. Well, what if what would make you happy is to have someone who respects you, treats you well, and you treat them well, and you have someone you could care about? And thank you for the subscription. I appreciate that. I think it is a human right. I don't think the government should, try and force you into a marriage if you don't want to be married. But I do think that they should open up enough avenues that if you were interested in that, you could find that. Something like travel. If there's someone in Boston or South Carolina or I don't know, Zimbabwe or Shanghai, China, who wants to go out on a date with you, you should just go out on a date with them if you want it. And I don't know why in 2024, 2025, most people aren't up in arms over that. They're not upset that travel is extremely expensive. Like I want to go to Scotland mostly to learn more magic, but it's $1,000 to go over there. And I understand that takes a lot of fuel. You know, there's a lot of paperwork involved in that. They have to check people, and they should. At the same time, why does it take so much money to go to another country, to go to another city? It's that paywall that is prohibiting us from experiencing new cultures, new ways of doing things, new environments. After being choked out by this Los Angeles with their disgusting smog and smoke from their fucking arson, I should be able to go to Europe and just be on the rocks of Ireland looking out at the Atlantic Ocean. I should be able to do that. That's why I need my veteran benefits. There's a link in the description for a bill that would help people with PTSD from military sexual trauma achieve restitution so that they could afford the medical care that they need. I need to see a private care physician. I need to see a private care physician, and I need to get out of a country that just abuses me and re-triggers my PTSD. I need to go to Europe where they have small villages, and those villages, it'll take a while for them to open up to you, but when they do, it's a nice slow, relaxed pace. It's wonderfully boring. You can do things like garden walks, you can go sit in a cafe, you can go to a bookstore. I know you could do that in America too, but you know it's not rushed. In Europe, they want you to obviously buy something if you come into their establishment, but they also want to treat you like a human being. They'll sit, with you. Some of them will pour you tea and give you biscuits and say, yeah, just sit, read, enjoy yourself. I'm glad I have a customer in the store right now. I want that. I want that level of just peace. This this peace that you can experience. And I know that I'm in a fantasy world because I don't know half of what's been going on in Europe recently and how bad things like human trafficking and drugs are running rampant in places like Scotland, where people are just being exploited. But I'd like to believe that that's not the entire country. So why not? Why not just try it? Why not try something new? Because I have traveled all across America and I keep trying and trying and trying, and every town is just not the right fit for me. I tried everything from Tennessee to Ohio to New York to LA. I've tried everywhere. Texas, I've tried. And there were things that I liked about all of them, but it never fit what I needed. And I know that I'm a musician living in LA, and that should be the dream. It's not my dream, though. My dream is to be an engineer. My dream is to be an astronaut. My dream is to repair the environment once and for all, and also start preparing people for what is coming. Because we have things like solar flares here, and the sun is not our friend. Wake up, people. There is a nuclear explosion in the sky every day. Every day. You don't think that you live under a nuclear power plant, but you do. You are being irradiated. It is affecting your skin, it is affecting your cells. What am I doing for a living? I am a disabled American veteran, so I do a podcast on environmentalism and human rights. And I want to use my engineering background to start helping people and explain to them that we need things like to have schools and hospitals be underground or be shielded, be EM shielded. It does not help that when it comes to city planning, it's a bunch of politicians who aren't doctors and a bunch of doctors who run hospitals who aren't also engineers. I want to redesign everything so that patients can get in, receive the medical care, and then leave, so that there is more space, more time available to medical staff to attend those with more critical needs. So that's what I do for a living. It doesn't pay anything. I'm depending upon people to use my Patreon, which is here, or in lieu of that, listen to my music and support me that way. Because right now I don't have all of my veteran benefits, and I'm trying to save the world. I'm trying to save the world. Someone has to. And I know that that is a messianic complex to do that, because you get all of the persecution, all of the ridicule, all the pain. I don't care. I think that children growing up should know the joy of going outside. I think they should know the joy of finishing high school without being shot to death by Americans. I think that children deserve to be emancipated from parents, from high school, from the shit of a crappy town that doesn't respect you because you're different, and have internships waiting in metropolitan cities if that's what they want, or rural city, or start their own business. That is what I think I should do with my time, is make pathways for young people to experience life fully outside of this messed up system where you're sandwiched in with a bunch of disgruntled little far, well, disgruntled farts is what I wanted to say. I wanted to say disgruntled men. I speak Gaelic on occasion, so it comes out sometimes. Sorry. I know I should be speaking American on an American podcast. Do you think cities use more solar energy? They're not using enough of it. They're not. There are tax incentives. There is change.org slash the new avocado act is a law I want to pass to invite Latinx restaurant owners to start using solar energy in order to power their business. Hasn't really taken off, doesn't really stop me from asking for it. Because every business that requires things like refrigeration, ovens, and stoves, massive power drains should be running on solar. They shouldn't even be using the grid because the grid is robbing every single one of us blind. I have a solar panel. Does it mean I don't use the grid? I don't ignore the fact that there is an alternating current that I can tap into. But there is something really, really nice about having DC right there and saying, I tap into that and I have just enough to do things like charge my cell phone. And I charge my cell phone off solar energy. I know it's kind of ridiculous to have a solar panel just for that, but that's what I do. Little things like that. Every kid should have a solar panel backpack. How often are these kids going around, oh, my phone is at its last battery. No, let me pull over here. Oh, I need to text more. I need to do this. I need to do that. Either your phone should be completely off or it should have the power to run at all times. And I think that that's an engineering thing. I want to compete in the engineering world, but I'm not able to because I'm a disabled American veteran, which is ridiculous. I'm an engineer, and it's not fair that I can't seem to do anything else. So to your question, cities just don't do enough. Aviation, I'm going to read what you say. I feel like school are using too much lights and that doesn't even need to be on. It's like the most random shit I've ever seen. That's what I'm talking about. And it's actually damaging children's eyes. I almost feel like if you have children wake up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to go to school at 8, 9 o'clock and start their classes, the sun is up for most areas. The sun is up. There is sunlight coming in through those windows. If you need to magnify or bend the light more so it illuminates the room more, do that. But don't turn on a current just to have the lights on when they should be able to see normally. And the same thing with computer labs. There are computer labs in school that they're on all the time. They never turn them off. And yeah, there are some kids who, use them on the offhand, or the teachers use them, on the offhand, when they have free moments. But that's one computer. You have maybe 20, 30 computers in these computer labs that are just always on. And that's a huge waste of electricity. I mean, I say that as someone who has a PC rig, and sometimes I have to say, no, let me put that in sleep mode, let me turn it off. You can do more for your community by saying, I pay taxes in this area, shut off those fucking lights. I mean, we're acting as if kids are all blind and can't see without having a giant fluorescent light overhead. If you are in a room, a classroom, with windows that are open toward the sunlight to come in, there is enough light. You don't need extra light, and you don't need extra light in hallways. In fact, there should be less light. I mean, can you imagine the damage that we're doing to our children's eyes by having lights on all the time, and then they stare at their phones when they're not being blinded by fluorescent light? I'm a person who cares. I'm a person who cares about human rights. I don't even have kids, but you call me daddy because I adopted this state, which I hate. I hate California, but I adopted it because I saw that the leadership that they have here with Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass was insufficient to the needs of the area. I'm going to read what you said there. Aviation just wrote, I feel like the US is a bit wasteful with electricity, especially in schools. Same thing with hospitals, too. If you had to visit someone in a convalescent wing, they shouldn't have lights on. If you're recovering from surgery, you should have flowers, you should have plants in that room, respectfully, if your body can handle it. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And you should have the ability to have lights in there or enough light so that your doctor can do a thorough analysis of anything that's going on. But mostly you should have it dark so you can rest and recover. Because the reason why most of us even have to go to the hospital is because we are so bombarded by electricity, by light, by stress, that our bodies are just out of sync from our normal sleep cycles. And most of the time that these people go to the hospital, they just need a break from whatever is waiting for them back in their homes, an abusive relationship, a job that they hate, kids that are difficult, whatever it is that drove them through health problems to go to the hospital. And hospitals would save a lot of money if they just went 100% solar and then went efficient with their electricity use, which is why I want to have my VA benefits, because then I could buy a hospital. I could buy a hospital and run it as a charity and then say, as the hospital administrator, that we're running it with solar power and we're running it with efficiency in mind. And we're having EM shielding, so that people can recover correctly. Not no cell phones on the wing, no cell phone use in the hospital at all. It's we will guard your body from these cell phones. We will guard your body from hearing beeps all the time, which trigger just cortisol, that stress hormone that you don't need to have in your body when you're trying to recover from things like surgery or childbirth or just the stress of going to see a doctor. So that's what I'm trying to do. I have my Patreon in there. It's there so I can keep doing these podcasts, because these are conversations that your president should be having. Your president should be able to say, no, I'm going to write a law that says that if you're in America and you receive hospital care, that your hospital will have solar power, and enough solar power to have 3 backup generators. So if anything happens, a storm, an earthquake, whatever, there will always be enough energy to run things like ventilators, incubators, whatever is going on, refrigerators. Everything will be taken care of, because we will see this as a national good. Hospitals are a national good. And I know it's inconvenient to have a bunch of healthy Americans going about their day, maybe learning, maybe growing, maybe making some environmental changes in their diet so that they don't have to go to the hospital. I'm still going to ask for that. And welcome back, CT. I normally talk about the LA fires, and I somehow shifted into hospital administration. And I don't mind. This is an environmental channel, so I'm going to talk about that right now because this is a conversation you should be having with your president. You elected a president, you elected governors and mayors, but you're not talking to them about what you need. You need to revamp these schools. They need to know about things like the Trail of Tears, where people were ripped from their homes, ripped from their natural ancestral lands, and forced to just walk on foot, forced to relocate to some area that they didn't know, and they lost so many people. So many people. And you should be able to be taught that in schools. You should be able to be taught in school medicine. Maybe not open cardiac surgery, but enough that you could set a splint, enough that you could reduce a fever, enough that you could at least keep a food journal or a sleep cycle journal so that when you go to your doctor, you can present this to them, this vital piece of information that your doctor needs. You see, when you go to see your doctor, your doctor just wants to know, okay, what are your symptoms right now? They don't know or do not care, that you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or that you heard a sad song, or you stubbed your toe, or that you haven't slept in 72 hours. All they want to know is your heart okay, or is your lung clear? And it's sad because you should have that rapport with your doctor to be able to share anything and everything, because your doctor is there to help you, to keep you alive. You should have the freedom and the responsibility to disclose as much information as possible so that they can do their jobs properly. It's one of the reasons why I'm upset that I'm not a doctor, and then also upset that if I was a doctor, that I would be placed in a position where it's just a drive-through. People go in to see their doctors, they lay out their symptoms, you give them something for it, and then you send them back to whatever awaits them. You don't often have psychologists on call that say, no, 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 before I prescribed you, this for anxiety or high blood pressure, what the fuck is going on in your life? Are you getting laid? Like, how many doctors say to their patients, even teenagers, are you getting laid? Because everything pretty much revolves around that. You reach an age where it becomes more than I need a nap or I need a sippy cup. It becomes I need to be loved, and somehow the lack of it has ruined us. It ruined us in high school. It ruined us in college. It ruins us in the workplace because as much as we want to focus, you see, people in the 50s and 60s, they had, not that I was alive during that time period, I'm not that old, but they didn't have the internet. They knew that there were attractive people out there. They knew that there were people waiting to have sex or whatever. But oftentimes it was, there's a job, you're working an assembly line, or you're in an ad office, or you're doing something, and that is the only thing you will focus on. Only thing. You have to love these cell phones, which undermine that narrow way of thinking, because you have a phone that connects you to people from around the world. I have someone in my chat, Jaden, who is currently in Africa. And now I know more about what's going on there. I know that there's a world outside of here. And did I ever go to college? I did. I achieved my degree and then I joined the military. So now I'm disabled. But that doesn't stop me from wanting to see the best for the country. And the best for the country is for someone like me to stand up to Mayor Karen Bass, to stand up to Governor Gavin Newsom, and even to stand up to Donald J. Trump, my current president, and say, we need to do more. We need to be able to have a conversation and say, we need to rebuild. We need to get into the minutia of what is going on with our schools, because these schools are either churning out geniuses or they're churning out depressed psychopaths who go back and shoot up the schools. And no one is saying, let's talk about how schools are being run. Let's talk about, what is going on with the destruction of the American family unit, because the rest of the world reads these stories of American gun violence in schools and they just say, you dumb fucks. They laugh. I mean, I'm pretty sure some of them feel sorry for us, but a lot of them just laugh and say, that's just a symptom of American chaos. So why not have that conversation with your president and say, look, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that if you own a gun, you probably have a reason why you need to have a gun. There's not a reason for a kid to own a gun unless, they're under the direct supervision of a trusted adult, which is a legal guardian. I support the Second Amendment. I don't support a school system that says we will damage you to the point by either ignoring things like bullying or ignoring your special needs, that you will grow up to be such a disgruntled person that you come back and wreak havoc like that. So I'm going to have these conversations, and hopefully enough people join my podcast, subscribe, that I can have that conversation with the current president and say, I have to talk to you about how we need to redesign these schools, redesign the curriculum, because we need to start talking to these kids and say, what do you need? Do you need to graduate early? Because we can make that happen. Do you need to go to an internship? Because we can make that happen. Do you need to be emancipated from your family because they don't understand you, they don't get you, or they're abusive, whatever is going on? Let's make that happen. Let's intercede and say, get your GED and get the fuck out. Because we are allowing our young people, our young, precious generation to be cannon fodder for gun violence events. And I don't understand how in this country you could sleep at night. I already have my PTSD from military sexual trauma. I also have the weight of all of the drama that is going on in this country. And thank you for putting that American flag there, because I talk a lot of truth about this country, truth that I am proud to say, because I have the freedom of speech. I have the freedom of speech and I have the freedom of press. And as a disabled, honorably discharged veteran, I will exercise my ability to talk about that as often as possible, because it is not okay for these schools to warp our young children to the point where they have to fear for their life until they graduate. And after they graduate, it doesn't get any better, because now you have workplaces filled with these people who didn't sort their things out properly there, because we don't have the right programs in there. Bullying should not happen in schools. If you have time to bully, you should have time for your homework. And I'm at this point where I have to say, if you're not getting straight A's, get the fuck out my school. Get the fuck out my school. I don't want to see anyone dragging around an F or a D in America. It's beneath us. If you're getting an F or a D in America in your school, you shouldn't be in school. Go learn a trade, go work on yourself, go be a rock star, whatever you want. But we shouldn't be forcing these people to be there. We shouldn't be subjecting them to things that are beyond them. We should be just saying, what else can you do? Because this is not for you, and we shouldn't have you here. Same thing with athletes. If you're an athlete and you're not getting straight A's, you shouldn't be on a team. Because if you can't multitask, then you're not doing yourself enough justice. Because if you think that things like math are beneath you because you can put a ball through a hoop, then you're fucking yourself. Because when you go to negotiate for your contracts and you're talking millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you have to talk about things like sponsorship deals, and they will fuck you over percentages, and you don't know what that is. You don't know how much your residuals are worth for every time that they show your face in a commercial. Then you need to be taken out of school and you need to be taken to a special school where you only work in your athleticism, but you also get taught that in a way that makes sense for you in a smaller cast size. If you are a super genius, you shouldn't be in high school. If no one is going to ask you to prom, you shouldn't go. You should be running your own business. This is the conversation I need to have with America. I need to have it with a president and say, get our kids out of a war zone. It is a war zone. And the teachers that go there, those are saints. Those are saints because they are really holy when they have to stand between their students and a gunman. So, where is the conversation of we need to value the American education system more and get people out of it? If you want the whole experience of proms and homecoming and whatever, good for you. But if you're a fashion designer, you should get the fuck out of high school, get yourself a fucking apartment, and start working on your first line. Speak to local newspapers. You should be a fashion editor. You should be doing something more with your life than trying to fit the best years of your life into things like high school. If that's not for you, if you want that, fine, enjoy that. If that's not for you, get the fuck out. Why aren't people trying to leave? CT, I agree with you that there are things like student fashion shows that they have in high schools. They have Future Business Leaders of America that are sometimes factions they have there in high school. At the same time, if your home life is you are a surrogate parent because your two parents or maybe just one parent has to provide all the money and is no longer there and doesn't check your homework and doesn't do anything, it just works like a slave to make sure that the rent is paid, then how does that help you as a fashion designer? It might give you more of a fire or motivation. Wouldn't just moving to your own place and starting that be be a better idea? Because we're looking at these high schools, these gateways to adulthood, as if you wait long enough, these children are going to magically become wise, mature people. That doesn't happen. It just does not happen. You know what makes you a wise and mature person? When you have to live by yourself, when you have to pay for your own food, when you have to buy a mortgage because you need a house, when you have responsibility and you have the joy of saying you own something. I would love to have America say, no, 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 you're 16 and you're a fashion designer. I keep saying fashion designer because it's just easier to think of that. It could be easily someone who is a car mechanic and just decides, you know what, I would rather own my own auto shop. Let's say that you own your own auto shop at 16. That makes a lot more sense than going through 16, going through 17, 18, when you could have just gotten your GED and opened your own auto shop. You might have wanted to go to a college or whatever, you still can, but we need to take the kids out of these war zones and say, no, you're worth more than that. You're worth more to America to be productive members of society by giving you what you need, which is responsibility and freedom. There will be some who would take a responsibility like that and say, well, I'm going to spend all my money on drugs and video games or whatever. But there will be some that say, no, 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 I have to buy fabric, or I have to hire employees, or I have to buy an ad in the newspaper, or I have to hire models, whatever you want. But when you have to run your own business, that click in your head where it goes from I need mom or dad to take care of things goes away, and you start thinking for yourself. You start thinking for yourself and you have freedom. You have freedom and you have money. Why not have that? Let me read what CT is saying here. Get good grades and get into a decent college, then start build your business. Why wait? Why wait? If you're an engineer like I am, and you have a great idea for building a brand new car or something like that, you could go to school for that and learn how to do things properly, or you could just be a car manufacturer, make small boutique cars, and then sell them at extravagant prices to celebrities or very, very private owners, and then slowly get a name for yourself, and then eventually own your own car manufacturing plant. Sure, you could go to high school, you could, but high school is such bullshit. Like I said, you are wasting your time if. Oh, thank you for coming into the chat, CT. I appreciate what you say here. I'm not against people going to college. I'm not against people having a more well rounded education. I'm just saying, how well rounded is your education if you are dodging bullets? How well rounded is your education if your boyfriend at the time is trying to pressure you into sex and you get pregnant? Hmm? Somebody answer me on that one, because I'm not female. I don't know what it's like to, want to have sex and, don't want to be considered a slut. And you have all this pressure on every single side. And the one time you give it up, the miracle of life happens. And then you have to decide whether or not you want to remove a complication or change your life forever. I can't imagine what that's like. But what I do know is female students are very clever. They're clever, and most of them want to go into STEM. They want to go into things like law or be a doctor, social work, things like that. Social work is almost completely staffed by females. It's just a fact. That level of caring, that level of intelligence and dedication to humanity, shouldn't we protect that by saying, no, do what you want with your body. If you want to have sex, have sex. You want to, you know, go to prom, go to prom. But here's another option where you just pack your shit, go to a brand new town, start a business, and value your vajayjay a little bit higher than some broke ass broke high school boy that you're seeing right now. Go get yourself a stockbroker. You're running a fashion line by yourself. Do you think you would go back and say, no, 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 my high school sweetheart was it for me? I'm gonna ruin my for JJ and any prospect of having a life for high school? Some high school guy who will peak and then just be bitter because he could never do collegiate or professional sports? And I'm not saying that's every case, but when I think of the women in science that I have admired, the women in aeronautics that I have admired, and I say to myself, would I prefer to have them be a scientist or just be a stay-at-home mom where they might be happy, but they're just miserable also because they know that they're smarter than that. But somebody has to put the PB and J in those brown bags and hand them to the kids. That's how things were back then, and somehow we never really got out of that. Things like proms and homecoming are just so archaic and so demeaning to women. And I know I shouldn't really speak on women issues because I'm not one, and I'm still angry at them for sexually abusing me at Latin Air Force Base. I'm still going to talk about it because it's a human rights issue. And I think you have the right to better medical care. I think you have the right to more empathetic leaders in business and in art. So I will interfere and say, no, we need to tell young girls, get the fuck out of these high schools because those men that you have in high school right now are fucking vampires sucking the life out of you, and they will just ruin any chance you have of furthering your career or whatever you want to do in your life. And the same thing with being a young gay high school student. If your school is bullying you, if your school doesn't understand you or try to interfere with all these people who are bashing you, if you go home and your parents are trying to send you to a conversion camp, get the fuck out. And the government should start telling these people, if you test out of high school, if you can just give you the GED, get the fuck out. Do what you want. If you want to spend a few years finding yourself, exploring your sexuality in a safe, controlled space that you don't feel oppressed, good for you. And I'm for that. I'm for people learning about themselves and discovering themselves. And I'm for people in high school having that freedom, but with better choices. Because when you are young and someone of a different sexual orientation, someone of a different gender identity, and then you have to go to high school, you are either expecting these high school students who grow up in racist, prejudicial families to change their minds, and that's not going to happen. You're expecting teachers to change their minds. That's not going to happen. What could happen is that you respect yourself enough to say, I don't need your opinion of me to change. My opinion of me is that I'm a person of value and I should go live in an area or accept a position as an intern. I mean, how lovely would it be for transgender people to just say, fuck high school? I'm going straight to college if I have the grades for it. Because I'll tell you one thing, transgender people are extremely intelligent. They have to be. They have to walk in two worlds at the same exact time, two genders, fluently. And you don't think that that's a language? It is. It's a foreign language. And they do it so well. So why the fuck are my transgender community still wasting their time with things like high school in small towns where they know that they're not going to accept you for who you are? No. Get your GED, get out. Your parents don't understand you for being gay or transgender. Emancipate yourself and get out. Don't waste a single day. Don't waste a single moment. If you have the means, get out. And if the government needs to step in and say, no, transgender lives matter, gay lives matter, we need to test them and make sure that they can handle things like college or handle things like running their own business and just say go for it, or just say, you know what, explore a different city, explore another world where you could be accepted. Same for being of color. How many people of color live in impoverished neighborhoods where it's either you become a rapper, you become a sports star, or you become a drug dealer? And those seem like the only options because you live in a poor neighborhood and your parents are poor and that's all they know, or they say, why don't you get a job at a factory or something like that? And you know that you're smarter than that. You know you're doing well. You're acing every test. Get out. Get out. Because the longer you stay, the more chances they have to pull you into that. Because I can't imagine, being a young person who wants to be a doctor from a poor Latinx neighborhood or something like that, and you have gangs on one side trying to pull you into some stupid fucking shenanigans which give you a police record, or you have some hot piece of Latina ass that is saying, give me your stuff, and then once you give that to them in the bedroom, all of a sudden it's no, put a ring on it. Okay, I need you to get a job. I need you to, give up on going to college because now you have to raise this kid. Oh, by the way, the second kid's on the way. And then years go by and your life is just ruined. Get these kids out of this high school system. It is nothing more than drug induced hookups. And I am for that if you're an adult and you can handle that. I'm not okay with having young kids fuck up their lives because of that when they don't know their full options. Like, why the fuck are you messing with high school when you can have emancipation, you can have your own place, you can spend time finding out who you are and what you want to do with your life? And I know that this is some really racy chat to talk about the sexual liberation of our young folk, but I'm looking around me. I live in a neighborhood where there's some families everywhere. I'm seeing some old ass bitches. I'm seeing some old ass bitches pushing shoulders, pushing strollers. And all I can think is, you waited so long. You waited so long. It's like, good for you. But you should be having kids when you're young. You should be having kids when you're young, or you should have your career when you're young, so that when you're older, you have enough that you could spend all your time with your kids. Sitting down and doing your homework with your kids should be the biggest joy that you can have as a parent. And welcome back, Clint. it should be joy because it means that you get to spend time with someone who matters to you. The American family just doesn't do that. I'm lucky I had a mother and father that, immigrants. So they said, no, we will do the homework with you. If you have any questions, we will check, we will proofread, we will do math problems with you. But there weren't problems, there were puzzles. And it was always a competition between my father and I to do math together. So that's just how I grew up. I grew up with a family that, look, things were tough, but it was still more together than what I'm seeing here. And that lack of cohesion that is in the American family right now is hurting us as a country. Every issue that we have, Black Lives Matter, every issue that we have boils down to, was your father in the picture and was he involved? Everything. On the cop side, it's, what exactly makes you feel afraid to do your job in this particular context? On the other side of it, it's what exactly about this situation makes you feel like you need to be aggressive? No one talks about this. Instead, it just turns into, well, it's a race issue. It's like it goes so far beyond race. It goes into these schools which delay adulthood, delay the level of maturity to grow and blossom in young people. I want to talk about environmental issues, but the lack of young people given the opportunity to become productive adults is a huge component to why we have an environment like Los Angeles where the whole county let arson happen and then threw a party over the ashes and the charred remains of animals. Because they don't teach in high school to respect other animals. They don't teach in high schools the role of plants and trees to give you oxygen. It's a question on a test, it's not an understanding. If they understood, if they actually did more field trips where they said, no, 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 you go into the forest. We'll drop everything, we'll take a whole 6 hour trip, we'll go deep into the forest, and I want you to take a deep breath so you know what that is. How many people live in these impoverished neighborhoods choked out with smog and car exhaust and fumes from just hairspray and nail acetone, that they've never known fresh air? They've never known it. They've always been oxygen deprived, as I like to say. That's exactly right, Clint. High schools are designed just to give people the bare minimum, but there are people who are exceeding the bare minimum and reaching excellent standards, far beyond their peers. We have to try and guide those people out of the high schools and say, no, 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 don't waste 2 to 3 more years of your precious life trying to chase after a high school experience that you don't even want. I say it every single time I have a conversation. If you're not going to go to prom, if you are an awkward shy nerd, or you're a book smart girl or whatever, and you're not going to prom, Why the fuck you waiting for it? I mean, I know that it's a huge experience for some people. You look back, 20, 30 years down the road, people are not going to remember that. I mean, it's ridiculous. They get in a limo, they wear a corsage, and you could say, sure, you could experience that if that's what you really want, or here's $1,000 a week paycheck for owning your own business. Here's a key to your personal apartment. Here's a gym membership. How many of these young kids that are acting out just need a gym membership? How many fat kids who are brilliant should go to a school that says, yeah, finish your schoolwork, but could you do that on a treadmill? So if you did decide to go to college afterwards, you go into college with a fucking banging body instead of, well, now you're the new fat kid at college instead of just the fat kid at the high school. Where is this conversation? Where is this conversation? Anywhere. Because they don't have it with the president. You don't have it on the news, this initiative to say, take our kids out of school and give them the specialized care that they need. Either thrust them deeper into adulthood or give them the specialized care so that they can work on facets of their character that they need to work on. We need to reduce class sizes. If you are still in high school I graduated, I think, 17. So if you're still in high school at 16, they need to sit you down and say, can we get you the fuck out earlier? Can we either let you intern somewhere, or could we give you a business loan, or could we find you an apartment somewhere where you can do something with your life besides waste two precious years, two precious years where anything could happen. You could graduate summa cum laude, or you could end up pregnant. And I know that the joy of human life means something to some people, but it also means that we may have lost a great human rights lawyer. We may have lost a lawyer who helps the environment. We may have lost a great doctor. We may have lost a great scientist, a chemist, because now she just changes diapers. No, I mean there are programs. There's like America Works or whatever, that where it says if you're 16 to 24, we'll get you out of high school. You'll travel. You'll learn trade. We'll do whatever. There are programs that do that, but they don't advertise enough. They don't do anything, and so there are people who take advantage of that. But the vast majority of the people, like the people in this chat, I mean, if you were told that there actually were programs where you could leave school early, you could leave at 16 and then do something else with your life, would you do that? Some of you might. Some of you might actually say, no, I want to stay, I want to finish high school, I want to go through the experience of a homecoming dance and a parade and making floats. How many floats do you make when you are 40? How many floats do you make as a 70-year-old? Because I don't think you do. You are right. Some kids are lazy. But then there are some kids who would say, fuck this. Fuck this. I have a mom yelling at me at home, telling me what to fucking do, and you're saying that there are programs out there where I could have my own apartment, I could emancipate myself. I wouldn't even have to go to school anymore. There's some kids who just want to be a beautician. There's nothing wrong with that. Get the fuck out of school and go do that. Get these kids out of fucking schools. Oh, thank you, Clint, for sharing that. I'm going to read that out. I was thrown out of my house at 16 and a half, so I've been on my own ever since then. Dude, I am 37. Look at what that statement says. You dealt with something that was extremely traumatic for most people. You're still alive. You have the ability to come on here and say that without any shame. That should be the case for most people. I mean, some people have perfect lives. If you're destined to be a homecoming queen, good for you. If you're not, why waste your time? Why waste your time with any of this stupid high school bullshit when you should be either in collegiate level classes, or you should be running your own business, or you should be going to a brand new city and experiencing more out of life? Reduce these class sizes. Like, this is the thing that upsets me as a person trying to get my veteran benefits, because I don't want my kids to grow up in America. I want to have kids of my own, and I know that's going to be extremely difficult for me because I have PTSD from a military sexual trauma. So finding a wife is going to be super difficult because of everything that's going on. But when I finally do, and I'm ready after several medical interventions, I don't want my kids to have to grow up in the American education system where it's way too many kids and way too many opportunities to derail everything I do as a parent. I'm going to be a stay at home dad. Even if I'm running a business, a charity, or whatever, I'm a stay at home dad. My kids go with me everywhere. I am their teacher, I am their father. That is the kind of parent that I'm going to be, because I see what those schools are doing to us, and how you are right. It is the stupefaction of America. So when anything goes wrong, they don't know what to do. They don't know about civics. They don't know that they have freedoms, and they're bullied by things like social media that say, oh no, you said this and then people don't like you, so you have to censor yourself, or you shouldn't stand up for your rights, you shouldn't stand up for your self-respect when you're at a job. No, I don't want my kids to learn that. I want my kids to learn to be strong, opinionated, confident people. And you don't learn that in a high school. I want them to understand challenges and overcome them by giving them adult challenges earlier. Clint, I'm glad you said that, and I'm going to read that out. And that's how it should be, man. Parents should be by their kids' side. In America, we have school shootings here, and as upset as I am, I'm also very angry, because as much as these families are in pain and everything, I still press to them, where were you? Where were you? Because hi Jaden, um, you sent these kids off to these schools. You relinquished your ability as a parent to this faceless entity that you have no idea what could happen. So I'm upset. I'm upset at parents across America because you see these schools as babysitting. I know my kid is somewhere doing something between 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock. They're doing something. They're somewhere. I can go about my day knowing that they're doing somewhere. Are they safe? I don't know. That fucking pisses me off. If you don't have a guarantee for the safety of your children after you let them go outside your house, fuck you people. Fuck you all. Because before the school violence, there was never a conversation of, well, we really need to change these schools, or we really need to get these kids out of these schools. Now, the only conversation that they have is, well, the Second Amendment needs to be rewritten. And it's like, fuck you people. How about you just do your job as a parent? Go to these schools, meet the teachers, meet the other parents, meet the other kids, ask your kids what the fuck is going on at this school that you spend most of your day in. Start fucking opening your mouth and say, no, you will sit at fucking dinner and you will tell me how your day is. If you're not having that kind of dialogue with them, I find it very hard not to be angry, not to be disappointed, because all of these, well, there was gun violence here, there was gun violence at a music concert. I think Jason Aldean was playing in Vegas, and someone took to one of the balcony windows, and it's just, there's a common denominator of lack of parenting. There's a common denominator of lack of connection to your country, and a common denominator of misery. Americans are just miserable people, which is why I don't want them around me, and I don't want them around my kids. I'm going to have beautiful kids with my supermodel girlfriend slash wife. And fuck you and fuck your American school system, because they aren't stepping a single foot through those doors. They will be homeschooled, because I wouldn't waste my beautiful children on a system that just creates shells of people who go to jobs that they hate because of mistakes that they've made throughout their life that derailed them from who they were supposed to be. We need to have a wake up in this country. We have elections, and then every time there's an election, people are pissed that there's the president that they didn't want is now in office, instead of realizing, who the fuck cares who's in office? What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing for your town? Because your president is the president of a whole country. He doesn't give a shit about your fucking town. He doesn't give a shit about your fucking state. Because he has to do the entire country, and then not just the country, he has to talk to other countries. So take responsibility for your town. Take responsibility for your family. Take responsibility for yourself before you keep turning to these politicians. Because it's very easy to elect people, it's hard to make the decisions for yourself and say, no, this is how I would like to see things happen in my own area. Because no, you can't change America that easily, but you can change your own town. One school district at a time. One school district. So hopefully this conversation, it gets through to people, because I keep having this conversation, and I will continue to do so. This is I Hate LA, Love Me Anyway. I'm your host, Ian Iliana. I want to thank the people who came into the chat today. Thank you so much. It warms my heart to know that people care about what's going on here in America and how America needs to grow and change. It has to evolve past what we've been doing in the past because it's just unsustainable. You can't have an entire populace too dumb to reach for the power that always resided within them. So I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do this podcast every day. My name is Ian Iliana, and this is I Hate LA, Love Me Anyway. Thank you, everyone, for joining.